All right, and you are live.
Hello.
We've got a pretty awesome game right now. We've got some Gris. I hope I say that right.
Yes, it is Gris.
Yes, I did it right.
Yeah, feel free to take it away, Tasselfoot.
All right. Actually, if you want to just give me a countdown, we can start right in. There's a long cutscene at the beginning. I can talk right through that.
Okay, no problem. I've got timer right here.
Cool.
Yeah, let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, everybody. I am Tasselfoot, and this is Gris. Gris is a platformer, game as art, with light puzzle elements. It's by Momentos Studios. It was released in December of last year. You may have seen advertising for it at AGDQ if you watched that. That's how I found out about the game. It's published by Devolver Digital. And so Nomada is a Spanish studio. This is their first game. And in Spanish, Gris means gray. And so that's the name of our main character. And she starts out very gray. And we're going to go through 5 different worlds of the game. And they're going to be represented by 5 different colors. And they are representing the 5 different emotions of grief. So we have this opening cutscene here where Gris is very, very sad, and what's happening is that her mother just recently passed away. And so the whole game is basically telling the story of how she copes with the death of her mother. It is very much game as art. There's no text anywhere in the game except for some very, very minor tutorial prompts when you get new abilities. So the entire story is told through visual cutscenes and through the audio, which is done by Berlinist and is really awesome. Oh, Gooby, I do want to mention that you misspelled Momentos. It's Momentos. Which brings me into the category that we're running. So the normal category is any percent, which is what I was going to do. It's the any percent no out of bounds. However, you awesome people apparently met the incentive last night, so thank you for that. And instead, we are going to bump things up a little bit, and we're going to do the all mementos category instead. And so that entails doing the entire any percent route, but in addition, we're also going to collect 28 mementos. And so they are 28 little memory orbs, basically, fragments, that when you collect all of them, they unlock an extra little cutscene that helps explain some additional aspects of the game. And so the main thing that we're going to do for the any percent is we're going to collect stars. And so throughout the whole game, we're going to collect stars, which allow us to create bridges out of them, and then we deposit them into the heavens. You're welcome. And we're going to use those stars eventually to basically like reboot ourselves and start afresh in our life without our mother. So cutscene's finished. We're very morose. We're upset here. And we're just going to walk until... Hey, Nix, thank you. We're going to walk here for a little bit until we get our first ability here in white, which is also known as denial, which is our first emotion of grief. And that's going to happen in another second. And so I am going to bunny hop throughout pretty much the entirety of the game. And the reason for this is, of course, that it's faster. The movement speed of Gris when you're just walking is a 3.2, but when you're single jumping in the air, like I'm doing currently, it's a 3.3. So it saves about 3% of time, which added up over an entire run, it works out to about 5 minutes. I did do a run one time where I didn't bunny hop. It was not the most pleasant experience. It's a lot more fun going fast. And it's actually even more pronounced of a problem or a slowdown when you're walking up inclines, of which there are a number throughout the game. On those inclines, your speed is anywhere from 2.2 to 2.8, depending upon how steep of an incline it is. So we do get some nice little bouncy effects on the uphill. It feels really nice to grab those and to properly hit them. So Gris, as I mentioned, has no like damage and no death. Overall, it's just really, it's meant to convey the story to you. And so the game itself is actually really easy. It's a really fun 3 to 4 hour casual gameplay experience. But because it was designed to be a relatively easy game, just to work you through the narrative of the story, there's a lot of forgiveness throughout the game that we take advantage of. Just a lot of little things. There aren't really too many major things. There's no major skips in the game. Well, there's one, but we're not going to do it here. And so most of the time save that we get is just through optimization. There's also very little RNG. In the any percent route, there's about 2 different spots that each have about 1 second of possible RNG time loss. And in the All Momentos route, there's a third thing that can have anywhere up to about 12 seconds of time loss based on RNG, but that's it. So overall, it's not too bad. So those were the first 2 stars that we've already collected in those 2 cutscenes. We're going to jump off the tower, grab our first memento right there. And it's the only one that we can grab here in Denial currently. There is a second memento in Denial, but we're currently not able to get it. We're going to come back for it later. We're going to head up to this first tower climb, which has some really precise movement and optimizations that we can do here. Try to stay as close to the center as we can. We have to go this circuitous route here to collect our third star, third and final, here in the Denial section. You're going to notice that throughout the game there are lots of statues of hands. Lots of statues in general, but specifically ones of hands. And that we're constantly entering these hands. See, hand statue. And then here we go. So we're going to enter this hand. And right there, I jumped from just outside of the cutscene. And that way, I am able to skip about 2 seconds worth of cutscene walking. And I'm going to do that throughout the game. There's a number of different cutscenes where if I jump from just outside of them, I can save a half second, a second, in this instance, 2 seconds. I've actually already done it 3 different times when I collected the first and second star and then entering into this hand here. So another really cool thing. Yeah, somehow I don't think they are Easter eggs to Mario 3. I do believe they are showcasing the death and loss of our mother as she reaches out to us. So this is really satisfying to bunny hop up the stairs here. We got to make sure that we avoid that nice little hole in the ground. And so one of the really cool things of Gris is that the entire world is just one giant map. It must have taken a lot of planning from the developers to work that out. And in the extras of the game, they have a bunch of concept art. And one of the concept art pieces is showcasing hand-drawn image of the entire world map. And it's super neat to look at. So at the end of each section, so we finished Denial. And now you can see the world transitioned and is now very red because we are in the second emotion of grief, which is anger. And so a lot of the themes of this section of the game are going to be things that are angry. And that's going to continue throughout the whole game. We have a little bit of a cutscene here as well. So, what's up? Gris is up. That is how we are doing. One of the side effects and drawbacks of having the entire world be connected, though, is that there is a bit of backtracking that we have to do in various places, because we finish each section at the hub, where we're going to deposit our stars up into the heavens. So especially after, not this section, but the one afterwards, there's about a 3-minute long backtrack that we do, and there's a couple other places where we just have long sequences of walking to get us from place A to place B. So right there at the end, you saw that there was a fall animation. Again, because we don't take damage, if you drop down from very high up, there's about a 1-second animation that plays of Gris kind of like just very nicely and gracefully collecting herself. And so we're going to skip that also in a bunch of different places. We're going to manipulate how we fall or where we fall from in order to prevent that animation from playing. And these are all the little subtle ways that we optimize time in this game, since there really aren't major skips. Just lots and lots of little ones. We gotta go grab our next memento. We're going to bunny hop our way into, in my opinion, the most boring section of the game, unfortunately. It's the Sandstorm section, and the problem with it from a speedrunning perspective is that you can't skip any of the cycles. They're very long, and you just have to slowly make your way through them. They're also not challenging. It's very fun from a casual perspective, because you get blown back a lot, and you're fighting and figuring out what to do, but once you understand the very simple process of the sandstorms, it becomes about a 4.5-minute long just movement and waiting section. So we're going to hop our way here into the first sandstorm, and then we're going to wait it out. In each one of these temples, we're safe. And then we're just going to make our way through each one of these temple to temple, sandstorm to sandstorm, until we eventually get our next power-up. There are no cycle skips, unfortunately. We can get close, but we're still about 2 to 3 seconds away from being able to skip a cycle. And that's very difficult to get that close to a cycle skip. I'll try. I'll show you how far ahead of a cycle that we're able to get. We're able to start attempting that after this sandstorm cycle. Because no matter how far ahead you get in those first two, you're going to get stuck in this one because of how wide this temple is. It's the sandstorm is always going to start before you finish. So we'll come out there. All right, so I'll do the best I can because this section is pretty boring. About the only way that we can entertain ourselves is to play the game of how far ahead of the sandstorm can we get. So we do have to drop down this way because we're missing a second star in order to complete the bridge that's directly above our head. And that's in a little cave down here. Gris music. And so we can use the sandstorm to push us a little bit further when we're going in the same direction as the sandstorm, which is why I jumped up into that sandstorm. Get a little bit of extra distance. Not that it actually matters, but if we're going to play the game within a game, we might as well try to play it well. So getting onto this platform is pretty good. Getting past that central pillar is really good. But that's the farthest that I've ever gotten in front of the sandstorm cycle, is just past that central pillar on that platform. Now we're going to meet Rocksteady here. I've given names to lots of the anthropomorphic characters. Rocksteady here is going to carry us along to our next platform. He also has memento number 3, so we're going to grab this one. This is the only free memento in the game, in that there's no time loss for grabbing it. So sometimes it's fun to just grab it in the any %. We can also do it a second time for no reason, except it's fun. Maybe it's good exercise. I don't know. So this is actually the only place that we can lose time in this half of the split. If we don't exit into that sandstorm early and we just wait for it to end, we are going to lose time. It's the only trigger of a sandstorm that can be impacted by Gris. I do see the memento there. Unfortunately, we can't grab it just yet. I will be back for it, I promise. But this is the last one. We're going to get our next power-up right here. So each power-up that we get, there's 5 of them total, 1 in each area, is about halfway through the colored segment, or the emotional segment. So this signifies that we're about halfway through the anger segment. You also get each power-up after collecting 2 stars. And this is our anger power-up, known as a heavy. Very angry. Like I said, we're going to head back and grab that memento now that we have our heavy power-up. Got to make sure that you go far enough left, otherwise you'll do a heavy skip break, which in this instance we don't want to do. Later on in the game, there's going to be a spot that we do want to do that. But basically, if you heavy from right on the edge of a broken platform, you'll stay up top and you won't heavy down through it. And now that we have our heavy power up, we're able to withstand sandstorms, and we're able to walk through them, albeit slowly. And that mechanic is forced upon us as a teaching tool right here. Twelve and a half steps, and we're free. We get some epic temple music here. So any %, we would head straight down this little heavy section that's coming up right here. But there is a memento off to our right, and this is the heavy RNG memento. We have to take a rock taxi to get to the other side, and he sometimes likes to do that. His position is complete RNG, and so we just actually got worst possible rock taxi RNG. So we're going to lose 12 seconds, unfortunately. If we had been either, a quarter of a second faster, or if his RNG had been half a second slower, something in that range, we would have gotten best possible RNG, which is jumping onto Rock Taxi's back as he's already walking away to the right. So this is a really cool memento. We're going to try to one-cycle it. It's a pretty tight cycle. Yep, alright, we got it. It's a really big time loss if we're not able to make the one cycle there. About 25 seconds to wait for the next sandstorm cycle, since we do need to be pushed to the left by that sandstorm. All right, I don't want to take you there, Rock Taxi. You were not kind to me on the way to the right. You do not get a tip. So now we have to do a sequence of heavies. down into the depths of our anger, and then we're going to start to rise up out of it. A little bit early there, unfortunately. Always frustrating. When you try to go too fast, it doesn't trigger the jump, and you have to do a jump heavy for each of those 8 heavies that you do in that sequence. Take a little fun slide here. And we're going to use the momentum there, get a little extra jump. That's also something that we'll do throughout the run. Anytime that we're able to build up a little bit of speed somewhere, we're going to take advantage of that momentum and carry it forward. So this is the windmill. Getting windmill 1 cycle is the hardest trick in the game. It's not. It's just something that I used to struggle with a lot, so I jokingly called it that, but it's actually pretty easy. We got it right there. It's also only a 6-second time loss if you do screw something up and have to wait for the next windmill cycle. It's good to jump on those windmills because when the windmill is going in the opposite direction that Gris is going, Gris's body weight does slow down the turning of the windmill. So I mentioned before that there were 2 small spots of approximately 1 second RNG. This is the first one right here. This is our buddy Lenny, and he's not cooperating. He's on the left side. Left side Lenny loses about 1 second. That's RNG as well. So RNG has not been kind to us in this run. There's one more little piece of RNG in another 20 minutes or so that could lose us about 1.5 seconds. And we'll see if we get good or bad RNG there. Really? Come on. I hope that... Oh no, that won't impact it. So we have to take the windmill up again in order to grab a memento again. Standing on a windmill when it's moving in the opposite direction from you slows it down, so we need to jump the whole time. Grab that memento, grab the star. And the cycle should line up perfectly back here. Wonderful. So there is a cool trick that we can do in a bunch of places in the run, and it's called an insta-heavy. It's a pixel-perfect trick where if you heavy on the exact right spot, the game the collision will be set up in a way that the game doesn't know how to heavy properly, and so it just instantly... There. We just got it right there. It saves about 0.5 seconds. Let me see if I can explain that slightly better. So if you're in the correct pixel, your heavy is going to go through other objects, and the game's logic doesn't like that. So instead of going through the heavy animation, it just instantly opens up into the heavy. And so there are a handful of places where we're going to do that. In most places, it doesn't lose you time to try it. So it's a free possible time save when you get it. And so now we're making our way up to Lenny's buddy George. George is just like Lenny, but he's bigger. And he's not RNG, for whatever reason. For whatever reason, Lenny is RNG and George is not. If you play properly, George will always be in a position. In a good position, I should say. But if you play poorly, George can wind up being all the way on the right side, which you can't jump to, and you have to wait for him to come back, and that actually snowballs a bunch of other cycles back here at the central second pressure plate hub. If we do everything correctly, all of the cycles will line up. In fact, on all Momentos, if we do everything correctly, we will actually be ahead of the cycles back here as we come back to that central circle area thing. I don't have a good name for it, because we're going to go up top after this. This is the balloon. You can insta-heavy this here as well, but it is the one instance where if you fail the insta-heavy, you do lose time, so I don't try for it. I just take the safe route. We do kind of a cool strat here. So you're supposed to grab that star and then circle all the way around and then ride the balloon down if we want to grab the memento that's going to be up in the left. But if we ride it down a little bit, grab the star, we can then jump back on. And now we can get off here. This is going to be close. I think we're okay. I hope we're okay. It's a huge time loss. All right, we're fine. We're fine. Forget I said anything there. So this is the last memento in anger. We're just going to head up to the Ferris wheel and then into Mother's hand again. Thank you. So yeah, so we were slightly early. Not as early as I sometimes am, so I guess I lost a little bit of time somewhere in there, but it's not actual time loss since I did have to wait still for that cycle slightly. I normally have to wait longer, so that's fine. This is the Ferris wheel. We have a giant pressure plate that we need to trigger, so we have to get really high up on the Ferris wheel in order to trigger it. The Men in Black pen, the de-neuralizer. We're just going to bop our way on this Ferris wheel. Take in the scenery from up top. And so we're going to try to do an insta-heavy off the end of this here. And we got it. So we're 2 for 2 on insta-heavies. There's one more that's going to come up in about 2 minutes at the start of the next segment. And those are the 3 main insta-heavies that we do in the run. There are a few others that we do, but one of them has a setup, and so it's guaranteed every time. And then 1 or 2 other ones aren't really needed and aren't really things that we go for, but sometimes they happen anyway. Don't fall down here. And into the hand. This was a really good segment here, and unfortunately we just lost a bunch of time, all because of that RNG, way back at the beginning with the rock taxi. So this is our movement here back to the hub. Anger has finished. We're now into emotion number 3 of grief, which is bargaining. Bargaining is represented by green. And so we've gone from the desert and the sandstorms of anger to the forests of bargaining. You can see the vines on the trees. Nothing I can do about that free fall animation, unfortunately. Well, there is actually something I can do about it, but it loses time. Don't worry about that pot. I'll come back to it in about 45 minutes. Hey, thanks for the good luck. So here we're going to deposit those stars that we got in anger, and they're going to add to this pathway that we're creating. So because the map is one large world, we're going to do just a lot of jumping right here. About 30 seconds worth. So directly below us is the denial section that we started the game with. And so we're passing over top of that, and we're heading completely to the left of it. Beware of the birds, though. The birds are angry, and they have the power to break bridges. It is pretty cool, though, because that basically what that did is it prevented us from being able to backtrack to the hub. So it forces us to go in this direction. So here's the final insta-heavy that we can do. That was a partial insta. I was 1 frame early into it, so we got a partial insta. So not bad. That was 2.5 out of 3. There are many, many runs where I get none of them. So I'm glad that I got to show you at least 2 full insta-heavies. So now we're just bopping along through the forest. And we're going to do a little 1 cycle here. Again, taking advantage of the leniency of the game design. You're definitely not supposed to be able to do that right there. In the game design that the developers created, it's supposed to teach you that you need to wait for the cycles to cross over that bridge. But you can jump on things earlier and later than you would otherwise think that you can visually in this game. And that's one example where it's very advantageous. There's a little guy right there in the foreground. Not sure if you noticed him or not, but it's a pretty curious little creature, and we're going to meet that guy again real soon. Skip that little tree. We do pause here slightly. If I didn't pause there, I wouldn't be able to jump off the end of that triangle. And it's faster to jump and use that momentum than just falling off the ends. All right, don't forget the memento. So normally I would go through this very quickly in any percent, but there is a memento up here. And so thankfully, these cycles line up perfectly. It's really nice. We're gonna 1 cycle this. Just like that. Thank you for the good luck. Yeah, it's a really satisfying 1 cycle right there, and it just lines up perfectly. I don't know if the developers intended that or not, because that's definitely... There's another tree directly below the leftmost of those 3 trees that casually, I believe, you're supposed to jump down to it and then jump back up onto the cycle, and it's supposed to be done 2 cycle, but... man, it just lines up perfectly to be done 1 cycle. Oh, hey, so here's our little buddy. He likes apples. That's macaroni. We're going to give him a bunch of apples, and he's going to become our friend. I call that bribery. The game calls that bargaining. So here's the last piece of RNG. Sometimes macaroni picks up the apple and eats it right away. Other times, like right there, he decides to wait for a second before he bites into the apple. And Macaroni biting into the apple is what triggers the cutscene. So we had the absolute worst possible RNG that you can have in this game. Welcome to marathons. I mean, overall, it's only 14 seconds of time loss because of RNG, but this is a game that can be played. It's a very consistent game overall, and it can be played within 15 to 20 seconds of sum of best. So losing 14 seconds to RNG is pretty painful, actually. So now we've got Macaroni, and Macaroni is going to help us overcome some of these obstacles. Because Macaroni likes to mimic us. You can see that Macaroni is bouncing when we bounce. If you noticed, Macaroni did a heavy when we did the heavy, so now we're stuck. We do a heavy. Thanks, Macaroni. Macaroni likes to break things too. Macaroni has a little bit of anger in him. So the reason I call him Macaroni, so he doesn't have an official name, but he's got, so the song, Yankee Doodle, it says the line, stuck a feather in his cap and called it Macaroni. Well, this rock guy here, he has 4 feathers in his head, and I thought that was pretty Macaroni, and therefore I just started calling him Macaroni. No one else in the community had given him a name, so I needed to give him a name. And thus, Macaroni. He's going to disappear for a second here, but we'll see him again real soon. Get a little more just movement here. So we need to get our 2 stars in order to get our next power up. And they're off on either side of that central platform. So we're going to grab this underground one first. Try to do a little sexy platforming here. That was not it. Oh, hey, Macaroni. He was hiding a star from us this whole time. I do default to he for Macaroni, but I don't know how Macaroni identifies. So Macaroni, I apologize if you are not a he. And over here on the left side for this second star, the mechanic is a little bit different. Instead of green trees that are on their own independent cycles, we're going to have some red trees. And I suspect all of you fine folks will understand how the mechanic of the red trees work. In case you hadn't figured it out, every time I jump, they switch state. So you can actually still jump in all of these sections, but it's incredibly precise, and it barely saves any time, so it's not worth falling, in my opinion. Grab that memento, of course. Oh, crap. No, it's fine. That was on purpose. You can do that a little bit too early, and you'll fall down to the bottom, which loses you 3 seconds to take that bottom path. This will be our third power-up. The double jump, also known as the float. So while I mentioned earlier that when you single jump, it's a 3.3 movement speed, when you double jump, it goes back to a 3.2 movement speed, the same as walking on flat ground. So even though we have the double jump, we try to single jump as much as possible. All right. Don't forget the Momentos. That is my mantra when I play the All Momentos category. There's 4 of them in this second half of bargaining. Collectively with 28, there are 7 in anger, 7 in bargaining, 7 in acceptance, which is the final area, 2 in denial, and 5 in depression. Depression is the 4th area. All right. Ooh, I was a little afraid I wasn't going to make that right there. I got greedy trying to make that cycle of the birds, and it almost didn't work, but we're fine. So there is going to be a boss fight, one of 2 boss fights that this game has. I say boss fight, but it's like quote-unquote fight, since there's no damage, there's no death in this game. Oops. I was fine. It worked out. So we're gonna jump over there. We gotta wait for some of these cycles. On any percent, we have some strats that we don't have to wait on any of these, but the cycles don't line up properly when we do all mementos. So we do have to wait a little bit on some of those tree cycles. So we grab those 2 mementos. The other 2 mementos will be after the start of the boss fight. More statues. A lot of statues in this game. And so with those birds there, if you do a jump while you're on the birds, you get that big sort of boost. It's not always straight up like it has been in so far in the game. There are other places where it sends you on a diagonal. So I jumped into that cutscene right there. And this is the start of the boss fight. Bite. And the last 2 mementos that we'll grab are in this fight. So we're going to try not to get blown back by the bird. Like right... There we go. So we avoided it there. We got to grab the memento. So the bird acts a bit like the sandstorm. Very similar mechanic. Not really sure why the bird is angry with us, but the bird is angry with us. We're trying to bargain with the bird, but it's not going so well. So this is a cool thing right here. We're going to do a jump cancel. Avoid all of our fall animations. And that saves a few seconds. So there's going to be a lot of jump cancels now that we have a double jump. Okay. I'm not really sure what that is. I'll just go do that again. That was weird. That had never happened before. Okay. Not a big deal. But yeah, so we'll jump cancel in a lot of different places in order to get back to our single jump faster. Also, in actual runs, or even in marathon, missing a memento is effectively run over. There's no easy way to backtrack or recollect a memento if you miss it. The game is designed very heavily to not allow backtracking. So the only way you can re-get one is if you're still in the same section of the game, like I was right there, and you like just miss it and immediately go back. But if you miss it and remember 45 seconds later, you're done. You can't go back and get it, unfortunately. The only way you can then get it is to beat the whole game normally, watch the full credits, and then go back to the chapter that the memento is on and play through the chapter until you get to the memento, and then you'll be able to collect it. So it's can be like a 10-minute time loss. Now the bird's our friend. Now the bird is not our friend. The bird wanted to be our friend. We were cool. Bird and I, we made peace. We were homies. We were flying through the air together. But then the bird got spooked by the bells. So we're going to head up all these stairs, and we're going to have the final battle here with the bird. We got some good bell strats, because obviously the bird was spooked by bells, so we have to be on a giant bell tower. Nice, that was good right there. Casually, you get blown back all the way to the center. Perfect. Perfect bird fight right there. More stair climbs. A lot of stair climbing in this game. So at the top of these stairs, there's going to be another hand. And this is going to be the end of bargaining. So, and there is a cutscene. So there we go. We're going to jump from right outside the cutscene again. And the world is going to go from green to blue here. Also, if you're paying attention, you may have noticed that I said that there are 7 mementos in green, bargaining. But we've only picked up 6. There were 2 in the first half, and there were 4 in that second half. There is one more that we are still going to pick up that is considered part of bargaining, and it's going to be on our backtrack here to the hub. And you'll also notice that as we progress, the hand in the statue gets larger and larger and more complete. Like after Denial, it was just the hand, and it gets to be more and more stuff as you go through the game. So small little details. We're going to do a trick right here. Nope, I was early. So there's a fast glide out of that tower, but it's a blind trick, and it's a very small window. And if you go early, you do a glide into the side of the tower and then out. And if you're late, you fall into the water. And so going into the water is actually the slowest means of transportation and travel in the game. So avoid going into the water at all costs. And this is another trick we're going to try to do. One cycle. It's actually incredibly... Nope, we missed it. So we're gonna get 3 cycle here. So that was pretty bad, but that's actually an incredibly tight cycle to make. So unfortunately we didn't get it. Not a big time loss. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get either of those 2 tricks, but they're both pretty hard to get. And so here's the 7th memento from bargaining. The fast glide, if you get it, only saves about 1 second. If you do go early or late, it loses about 1 second either way. And that 3 cycle loses maybe about 5 seconds over getting it 1 cycle. So nothing major really. It is what it is. So we have to go through the water here. We don't have a choice. But we try to stay out of it as much as we can. And this is an example of the birds not pushing us straight up. You can see that they're forcing us to the right. Get some fast travel bird strats. This is also denial here, by the way, that we're going over this whole bird area. The denial section is now completely underwater, which is a good thing, because after we're able to swim in the water properly, we will be able to collect that second denial memento. So this section is called depression, and I do like to do something here. I like to call out that, you know, if anyone out there watching and listening is going through a hard time, it's okay. You know, it truly is not the end of the world. Depression happens to everyone. It's okay to talk to someone. And with that said, if you're in the United States, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is always available to talk with you. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. And if you're in another country, I'm sure there is a similar number available to you, just with a quick Google. So, cool. Thank you for posting that. Oh, no. I am so sorry for showing you the fall animation there. So this entire trek here in this depression section will take us down to an ice cavern. There you go. That's a heavy skip right there. We avoided going in the water. It saves about 5 seconds right there. And the ice cavern is on 8-second long cycles. And those cycles started all the way back up at the top at those 2 pools of water that we were at right after the beginning of this section. So we have to play within 8 seconds of quote-unquote perfect throughout this section, or we're going to lose 8 seconds. But if we lose only 6 seconds, then we're actually going to lose nothing. So we do a little quasi insta-heavy there. We actually want to trigger that heavy start before we walk off the platform. If we start heavying after we've walked off there, we don't have enough speed to make it through that water, and we have to do a very slow swim back up to the surface and redo that little section. So It's important to start your heavy early there. This screen, just look at the screen. Look at how beautiful it is. Yeah. Like, the whole game is beautiful, but that screen, that's like my favorite screen to look at. I'm gonna do some fast mushrooms here. Over into a slow swim. We have to do a slow swim up to a memento here. We'll just move around a little bit. There's nothing else to do here. Do. So there are 5 mementos here in the depression section. Also, we should be fine to make the correct cycle. I don't think we're gonna lose time. But again, we want to be in the water for as little of time as possible. We're going to break this pot over here. Look at how large the hitbox is on the pot. Okay, not that large. It's a really large hitbox, though. The hitboxes on the pots throughout Gris are varying sizes. Some of them are really small, and some of them, like that one, is really big. I don't know why that is, that different pots have different hitbox sizes, but they do. So here's the ice cavern. No problem. We're a little late to the cycle, but we still made it. So no time loss. So Gris does feature one kind of large skip to it. There is an out of bounds skip that you can do on the right side of this ice cavern. It saves about 2 minutes and 40 seconds to clip out of bounds, and then you skip the entire next section of the game. However, that category in any percent, the any percent no restrictions, is not as popular as the any percent no out of bounds, and it's not possible to do that clip in all mementos, because otherwise we would miss 2 mementos by doing that clip. So for all mementos, there are no major skips. Now that we have our 2 stars, we're going to get our 4th power-up, which is the dive power-up. It gives us the ability to swim, and it changes swimming from being the slowest means of travel to being the fastest means of travel. Normal swimming here. Hold on. We gotta grab a memento. It's just right over here. Grab it, please. Yep. Okay. Grab memento. So swimming is a 5 speed. And then we have this dive that you can see that's kind of like a boost in the water. And when we get that dive, our speed goes up to a 14. Also, you notice that I heavy in that space there, because when you're falling, normal falling is a 14 speed as well, but heavy falling, uh-oh. Ah, jeez. Alright, so we're doing the swim of shame right here. Swim of shame.
Oh, sorry. Would now be a good time for a quick donation?
Sure, if you want to. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a $5 donation from Roma that says "Go for baguette in all bid war." Roma is one of the restreamers for the baguette restream.
Awesome.
This marathon French. Yeah. So thank you so much for that donation. All going towards the Foundation for Alcoholism Research. Feel free to take it away, Tassel.
Cool. So yeah, that was the biggest mistake that I've done so far, was missing that star with the heavy skip in the upper right there. That's a 10-second time loss, and I had to do the swim of shame back to the top to do it a second time. But we're going to grab this third memento here in Depression. I was also saying that when you heavy, it's a 25 downward speed, but you do have the heavy animation that you have to worry about. So you need to be free falling for at least 2 seconds for it to be faster to heavy than to just free fall normally. Your normal falling speed is a 14, and your heavy falling, your vertical heavy falling speed is a 25. So there are 4 stars overall in this underwater section here, 1 in each of the 4 corners. Not really sure why I flew off to the right there, but it's okay. And so these gates here, like with the memento on the right side, and then also now over here, they're one-way gates. So we did have to go up and around. Okay. Yeah, you can get up into that little vestibule and then exit out of it without actually grabbing the star, and that's super frustrating when it happens, so I made sure that I didn't leave without grabbing the star there. This is the hardest star of the 4. This is the water tower. So water tower can be done really quickly. There we go. That was a good water tower. Very smooth right there. And now we have another little skip here. This is our turtle cutscene skip. Right there. It's not actually a skip, but if you just finish and trigger this turtle cutscene here inside the turtle, which is what you're supposed to do, the turtle will stop swimming until you actually get to it, and so you lose 3 seconds. But if you do this skip, you're far enough to the south, you're far enough down that the turtle never actually stops moving. And so there's an invisible wall there that you can't break through until the turtle gets there. And so that saves 3 seconds doing that skip. And then also we're in a cutscene again here. And so we did a heavy right at the edge of that cutscene, because you're not supposed to be able to heavy into that cutscene. But doing the heavy saves 2.5 seconds over free falling there, because you fall for a very long time in that cutscene. And now we're gonna do a butt entry right there. We just went into Mommy's butt statue. And technically this is the end of blue, but just like with green, we now have the entire backtrack that we have to do to get back to the hub. And there's our second boss fight along the way. After this long cutscene, that is. And so we try to sing to the statue. Oh, so that's another part of the plot, is that like the reason that there's no text is that Gris loses the ability to speak after her mother's death, or loses the ability to sing, really. So if you try to sing throughout most of the game, nothing really happens. It's just kind of squawks, and nothing really comes out. So right there, we try to sing, it doesn't work, and the bird comes back for revenge. Only the bird is now a water snake, aka an eel. And the eel will try to bite us 6 times. 4 in this half of the fight, and 2 in the second half. Midwest Speedfest. It's very scary, the eel. You know, like how would you're just going for a little swim, and then this crazy creature comes out of nowhere, splits itself in 2, and then shoots like 100 little baby versions of itself out at you. It's terrifying. So that was the first half of the eel fight. Pretty easy. This is the tunnel. Tunnel section, you basically just have to memorize it. It's pitch black. There is a memento in here as well. So let's grab that. And as we exit the tunnel, we go into the second part of the eel fight. A little slow in that tunnel. Not bad. Midspring Speedfling. Midwest Speedfest. Midspring Speedfling. Ah. I know you all want to hear me sing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Turtle! Turtle, turtle, turtle to the rescue. Turtle, turtle, turtle saves the day again. Turtle at Midspring Speedfling coming to the rescue, fighting against alcoholism. Bye, Turtle. That's my turtle song. The Midspring speed sing? Yeah. That's good. So now both of our boss fights are finished, and we have a little bit more backtracking that we're gonna do to the hub. But you can already see that it's starting to transition from blue to yellow. Yellow will be our final area. It's very serene down here underwater in the caverns. Our fifth and final memento, thank you, of depression. We're gonna do, well, I'll try the YOLO jump here, maybe. Yep, there we go, YOLO jump, we got it. That's the YOLO jump because if you don't time it right, you fall back down to the bottom, and you have to do the loop again. It only saves 1 second as well, so the risk reward is not great, but it looks cool. And if you're aligned properly up top in the water, it's not too hard to do. But if you miss it, it loses 15 seconds. So we're gonna go to the hub, sort of. We're going to sort of go to the hub here. And that memento, that second memento from Denial, we're going to go collect it now. Excuse me? Thank you. See? 1 out of 2 mementos collected. That's what that means on that wall back there. Another fun swim. And now 2 for 2. Take advantage of momentum. We're going to do that a lot now that we have the ability to swim. And this is the final area of the game. The 5th emotion of grief. Acceptance. Very warm colors. And those warm colors travel with us, lighting up the way. But if we get angry, that light disappears. So we have 7 more mementos to grab here in acceptance. Also note that those birds are yellow. So the yellow birds differentiate from the red birds in that they open up areas for a limited time only. Act fast while supplies last. I have to wait around here. Just gonna take a little break. And there's a second memento that's going to come right up real fast. We jump cancel there, otherwise we fly way too high. For whatever reason, I like to always use the right side here. So I only go left side when I have to get the memento, but for everything else, I go right side. Just like up here when we get to the hub, I always go right side first. I don't know why. I guess I'm a right side kind of guy, which is weird because I'm left-handed. Although most people seem to like to go left side first. So we are conserving momentum as we come out of these water squares. If you could note, I'm not sure if you noticed that or not, but that was a thing that was happening. Thank you. Thankfully, the movement of these little guys, despite being RNG, has no impact on the run itself. That would be very frustrating. So we're going to head up into the hub area for acceptance. And now we have to collect our 2 stars here. Again, 1 on each side. We'll use the water 4 different times right there on each side to help boost us a little bit. So you can go out of the water and back in, and it's a little bit faster, but I find it to be really inconsistent, so I don't bother with it. Also, right here, we're going to jump into the middle of those birds so that when we come out, we land right on that platform. If you go into the top of the birds, you'll float above it and lose a little bit of time. This section is really cool, very technical. Bad angle there. Nice. Well, that went pretty well. Yeah, the game definitely gets harder as it goes along. It's all still movement based, all of the tricks in the game, but the movement gets significantly harder as it goes along. It's very consistent and pretty easy in the first half of the game, but then especially this split right here is some pretty complex sequences of movement, and you can lose a lot of time just by not moving well. Don't worry about me not collecting a memento on that right side there. There is not one to collect. Just get to the top of this tower. Overall, I mean, Gris is still a pretty easy game, and it's a really chill speedrun. I highly recommend it if you're looking for something a little more on the casual side or a little bit less intimidating of a speedrun. Ay, ay, ay. So I think we have a pretty good Discord. Oh, this is a nice trick here. So you're supposed to go all the way back down to that yellow light. but you can trigger it from the top side. Yeah, it's a really easy speedrun to get into. The Discord community is very welcoming. You only use 3 buttons in the game. So we have our final power up now. We've gotten our ability to sing again. And now we're going to use that to open up a bunch of these plants and trigger some other things. Bring a bunch of things to life. I'm going to bring this spider here to life. We can do a little dance while we wait for the spider. We do have to stay ahead of the spider or the spider will stop. Okay, don't fall off the edge of the spider. But gotta open up the flowers. So coming up is the actual hardest trick in the game. There is going to be a bug room that we're going to go into, and there are 2 tricks in the bug room. There's one cycle, which cuts off a cycle of the casual style of doing the room, doing the puzzle, and that saves 10 seconds because it's a 10-second cycle. But then there's also a no-cycle trick that saves an additional 25 seconds. And no cycle is a double frame perfect trick. I got it in my practice run about 2 hours ago. So I probably am not going to get it here. I only get it about 20% of the time. It's a really, really hard trick. So that's one cycle right there. No cycle? Oh, shit! Oh, we did it! There you go. That's no cycle right there. You have to do a coyote jump off the edge of the platform, and then after you flip, you do a second perfectly timed jump in order to make it straight to the exit. So yeah. Oh, that feels good. Let's go. Now the only thing left is to not miss any of the remaining mementos. So there is one more here in this little underwater back trek swim that we do. I think this memento is pretty cool. I won't forget any mementos. Promise. I got him. 2 more to grab. So we're going to trigger this guy. We'll come back to that in a couple minutes. We're going to head up to that area that just lit up. Because there is a memento up here. Gotta get low, trigger. Oh, I almost got too low. That would have been bad. And this has a very fast timer to it. Disappears quickly. Probably casually. Casually, it might be the hardest memento to grab. So after this cutscene right here, we're going to do another insta-heavy, but because of the forgiving nature of the game, when I did my sing, I stopped right on the edge pixel. It prevented me from going over the edge, so it sets the insta-heavy up here to be free. So we have one more memento to grab, and we have one more room with another big skip to do. But the skip on this side is significantly easier than no cycle. It's even easier than one cycle. But first things first, let's grab the final memento. Here it is. Little jump canceling action there. And we've collected all of the mementos, I believe. This is the flower room. So similar to the bug room, we're going to skip the entire top half of it. It's just a lot easier to do it here. All we have to do is just mash our jump button to just get the jump cancel. And that's it. And we'll just go across. Easy flower room skip. So we're going to collect this final star here. Backtrack to the final hub. And we're almost done. However, unlike all of the other chapters of the game, we don't actually go to the hub to deposit our stars. Oh no, no. We have risen above that. So we're going to go up. We've literally risen above it. We're going to grow some new trees. We're going to bring life. We are a creator of life. And we're going to climb up these trees, and that is where we are going to deposit our stars. A little bit slow. You can't go any faster, unfortunately. Not that I know of. So now the last thing that we need to do in the run is, so we got all 28 mementos, and there is now an additional cutscene that gets unlocked after collecting all 28. So we're going to go watch that cutscene. It's part of the run. And it gives you some really nice backstory about Gris and Gris's mom and why they like stars. Yay! There we go. Whew. So I know it's weird that like watching a cutscene is a requirement of the speedrun, but it's used for validation, and it is a cool thing that is added and only unlocked and available when you get all of the mementos. So oh, cool. So we finished the game, basically, but we need to, fight our final demons. Yeah, I mentioned that was spelled incorrectly at the beginning. I've been trying not to look at it. Oh, it's actually spelled wrong 2 different ways. I didn't even realize the toes. Yeah, it's Momentos. It's meme twos. I didn't say anything after I first said it, because I didn't know if like it couldn't be changed while I was going on the stream, or what the issue was, but it's definitely kind of like worse misspelled now than it was before. So yeah, so after we went through acceptance, we drop down into the black section. We fall, the statue explodes, everything is terrible. The eye is gonna blink at us. It's not, but it should. It would be the creepiest thing ever if that eye just blinked. That's still spelled wrong. The first O needs to be an E. But this is our final culmination of really bringing everything together. Because you'll see right here, that's Mom's coffin right there. I'm gonna do that. Give it some flowers. That's an achievement doing that. So that's part of the all achievements run, but not the all mementos. You'll forgive me the like 2-second time loss to just show some flowers off. Around Mom's coffin. So we jump along across all of the broken pieces of the statue and back into the hand, of course, and we sing to put everything back together. And so I'm gonna not say anything because this cutscene is amazing. So I just want you guys to all enjoy it. There's about a minute to go here. One last climb, and the world is now lilac. We're going to take all of the stars that we've collected throughout the entire game, and we're going to use them to start anew. To truly move on. And yes, time is coming up. Time ends now. My tracker has 356.56, so I'm still calling that a 136.56. I can numbers, so yeah.
GG, your time was a 137 exactly.
Yeah, official timed 136.56.
Okay. Awesome.
So. Yeah, so for everyone out there, please, if you have the means, donate to the Foundation for Alcoholism Research. It's a great cause. I hope you enjoyed the run. If you did, and you want to see more Gris or some other random indie games from long ago that I play, please give me a follow at Tasselfoot. And coming up next is, I believe, a 4-man co-op for Octodad. I'm sure that's going to be wacky. I don't know what to expect, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what that's like. And good... Yeah, oh, I'm sure it will. And so yeah, good luck to everyone else, all the rest of the runners, and thank you, Staff and Gooby, for handling everything. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming out. Apologies for beam toes and I can't spell. I'm really smart.
Don't worry. There are multiple runners of the game who consistently misspell Momentos as well. So you're not alone.
I feel better about myself from that. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care, guys.